Ladies and gentlemen, Mitchell Levy is about to come on and just absolutely rock your world in terms of being an influencer, creating amazing content, and building a brand that rocks, and a ton of other powerful wisdom that he's doing. He's definitely the aha that guy. You'll learn more about that in a second. Before that, let's talk about the sponsorship message. If you are an entrepreneur or an influencer, you feel like you're stuck, you're spinning your wheels, or you know that there's a greater level of success and achievement and fulfillment that is within you, that's what the 21-day challenge is here to help you with, to help reignite your self-belief and passion so you succeed like never before. Also, get crystal clear on your long-term goals, break them down into bite-sized steps, and have daily accountability to support you in achieving that with you and me, one-on-one. That's what it is, a 21-day challenge. Send me a message if you are ready to go, and we'll launch you into your 21-day challenge. Next up is the iTunes review of the week, and it's by Gina Pino this week. And she says, totally inspired. Feeling so empowered every time I listen to this podcast. Binge listening all weekend. Thanks, Chris, for sharing your brilliance. Your genuine caring and enthusiasm is infectious, and it lifts me up each and every episode. You and becoming your greatest possible self is a gift. Thanks so much, Gina. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. And if you are listening or watching right now, you want to let us know how to improve, how to grow, how to give you more of what you want, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes, and you can leave a review there and rate us and subscribe to the show as well. Or you can go to Facebook, search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Wherever it is, we appreciate your feedback. Thanks so much in advance. Again, Mitchell Levy is about to come on. I'm going to introduce him in a second. Grab a pen, grab paper. This guy has a powerhouse TEDx talk. You definitely got to go check it out. It'll be in the show notes. He is brilliant and he shares the gold. So make sure you stick around because these ideas could change the rest of your life, could change your business forever. And that's what I love about this show, Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. So let's introduce him, and then we'll bring him on the screen. Mitchell Levy is the aha guy at Aha That, who empowers experts, thought leaders, and businesses to share their genius. His superpower is extracting the genius from your head in a 2-hour interview so that his team can ghostwrite your book and make you an Amazon best-selling author. He is an accomplished entrepreneur who has created 20 businesses in Silicon Valley, including 4 publishing companies that have published over 800 books. Mitchell is a TEDx speaker and an international best-selling author with 60 business books. He's provided strategic consulting to over 100 companies. He's advised over 500 CEOs on critical business issues and has been chairman of the board of a NASDAQ-listed company. In addition to these accomplishments, he's been happily married for 29 years and regularly spends 4 weeks annually in a European country with his family and friends. And we're blessed to have him here with us today. Mitchell, are you ready to rock the house, brother?
Count me in.
Yes. Yes, we are rocking the house. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you for being here to share with us how to become our GPS in all the wisdom that you've accumulated, all the things that you've accomplished, man. I'm so grateful that we get to share with our audience what you have done because you've done some amazing things, man. So thank you for being here.
Oh, no. Thanks for having me. And man, that was a mouthful when you were reading that introduction. Sounded good, but you were so articulate.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Mitchell. So let's dive right in. Let's dive right into the question of the day, which today is fight, love, or both. And I wanted to ask this question because I feel some people feel like they need to grind it out and they need to fight and survive and do whatever it takes as long as it takes to get to success. And some people have the other school of thought of, I'm just going to get into flow. I'm going to attract it. I'm going to love my way to my results. And I just want to hear how these two have showed up for you and what your perspective is, Mitchell.
Well, it's such a huge open-ended question. So I'll answer the question, but let me give it within context.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Because it really depends on what's happening. Yeah. You know, if it's my business, if it's success, if it's family, if it's friends, yeah. I will solve the answer. I will first solve it with love, and then I'll solve it by fighting. But I will solve, right? Ooh. But I think if I'm looking at the backstream of that question, what I would say to myself is when I was younger, prior to being married, so anything before my wife's influencer is younger, and I'd fight everything all the time. I had, I had one tool. It was a hammer, and that's how I was going to break through everything possible. And I hope to say, after 32 years with this amazing woman, that I now have more tools in my tool set. And I don't always start. As a matter of fact, I typically start with, love is a good word, and it depends on how you say it. I start with my heart. I start with my heart. I start with my head. I start with finding a combination that provides the best win-win-win scenario for everyone possible. And the fight, let's redefine the word fight.
Okay.
Fight doesn't mean you have to physically fight with somebody. Fight just means that you have the passion and the will and the desire, particularly if you're an entrepreneur, to succeed at what you do. And while you're doing that, you still have to be open to ideas and suggestions and thoughts. And I think I'll wrap up in 1 second, because it was a very interesting question.
I love it.
I think what's interesting is we often, when people criticize us, so that's really probably the one way to think about this. When somebody comes and criticizes you, the first thing you do is you try to say, who is this person, right? Do they have the right to criticize you? And the answer is yes. Now, if it's public, maybe the answer is no. But if they do it privately, then the answer is yes. And your job is, if you're currently sitting there in your heart listening, you got to jump out of your heart and jump into your head. Because your head, that engineer that's inside you, you can listen to anything. Because there might be some scrap, even though it's like, hey, Mitchell, this is not working. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. You got to fix it. You've got to go to your head. And so even this morning, I'm on a call and I started speaking and said, can I be honest with you? I'm like, okay, jump to the heart, jump to the head. I hear this thing and I immediately, my heart's coming back. No. But inside I'm thinking, gotta listen, because in everyone's description of who you are, what you do, or what you've done, or what you've accomplished, there's some form of truth if it's coming from their heart.
Right.
And although you may not want to hear it, it's the right thing to hear. And, if you looked at the TED Talk, and that's, that would be in the show notes. What I often say is you look at the companies that have disappeared because they didn't listen to their customers. They didn't listen to other people. They didn't see the industry changing, and they had a cash cow today. Go back to horse and buggy wicks, go back to Kodak, go back to
Blockbuster.
They're still around. But no, I go back to all of the companies. My shouldn't say this. Borders Books is gone. My wife got a gift certificate at Barnes & Noble. She wanted to spend it quickly before they go away. Right? So the thing that's fascinating is you got to listen, because there's something there. It doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. But when I look at the products that I deliver today, a number of them actually came from negative complaints from the past. Wow. And not necessarily negative, but you could have said, hey, this is something I'm going to fight and not listen to, or you're going to open up your heart or your mind and you're going to listen to it. And then some really cool stuff will come out of it.
Wow. That's brilliant, man. You had a lot of really powerful gold in there. I love how you said the head and the heart, getting those to work together. And when people bring the constructive criticism or feedback, it's like, okay, it's not to take it personally. It's not to say I'm open to attack and I get attacked and my heart, it hurts. My ego is also, I would say, intertwined with that. And then you could say the head is okay. What here is true? What here can I really use and put to work to shift my perspective, to shift my progress, to grow, to impact more people and make a bigger difference and ultimately be happier too.
I'd say if Chris, I'm going to go on a tiny story just for a second.
Yeah.
We did this book for Bill Wallace. Bill's probably the most amazing servant leader I've ever met in my life. So he runs a group in Dallas called Success North Dallas, been doing it for 30 years. And I'm on the phone with Bill and I'm talking to him and it's somewhere through the conversation. I do a 2-hour interview to extract genius from people. Right. And so somewhere during the conversation, I go, Bill, you are the most amazing glass half full person I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And Bill says, Mitchell, no, I'm not. Now, every now and then time stops And I had literally an eternity to think about what could possibly come next, because this man is by far so amazing. And what he said to me, he goes, Mitchell, my glass is overflowing. My glass is continually there to share with other people. Yes. And what happened is it completely changed my mindset. Wow. There's not just glass half full and glass half empty, but also glass overflowing. And we actually included that as a quote on the back of the book.
That's awesome.
And what I'd want to say, though, is there's also a fourth category. A glass never to be full in any way, shape, or form. So if somebody whose glass is never to be full, you don't need to listen to that advice, right? Glass half empty, take with you got to listen. You just have to, glass half empty, how they will present your negative feedback. Right. You're not going to like hearing it, but there might be something there. The other two are better. Right. And since I started with Bill, let me just read. Our books are, I call them AHA books. They're quote books. They have 140 bite-sized quotes. That's awesome. 7 blog posts. We print with color on the inside. We print paperback, hardcover. So it kind of looks like this. But I have to read, Chris, given who you are, I've got to read AHA number 3.
Okay.
So this is Bill Wallace. It's from his book, Being a Catalyst for Success. It says, living a good life is determined by the smiles that appear on the faces of others every time they see you. And they keep that smile after you've gone.
Wow.
How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Don't we all want to live that life?
Yeah. And that's like, brand, what people are thinking and feeling about you after you've left the room, right? After your business has left the room, after the advertisement goes off the TV or the screen or whatever. It's like, how do people remember you after that? That's the ultimate, the legacy of your essence and what you're creating, the work in the world.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. So Mitchell, you're helping people ghostwrite their books, and tell us a little bit more about your clients, the people that come to you, and what you really stand for with them, man.
So I'm not actually helping people ghostwrite their books. We're actually ghostwriting it for them.
Right.
We've been a publisher since I use the proverbial we all the time. I've been a publisher since 2005. Okay. Published between 2005 and 2017, over 800 books.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to say something that may or may not shock you. During that time period, I was serving the wrong audience. You're like, okay, Mitchell, well, I've done real good. We take a trip to Europe every year for a month. I mean, I've done well. It's a nice business. The thing that's interesting, and what happened in 2018, is I actually recognized the audience was something else. And I'll give you a quick background and then I'll answer your question. So I ran a Kickstarter at the end of 2016. The Kickstarter was, we hit 250% of goal. Wow. Now I'll give you a hint. The way to create a successful crowdfunding campaign is you take a service that you're actually providing today and you offer it at a discount. So 20 people paid us for us. Once they wrote their book, we would publish it for them.
Wow.
Now, I always thought that my job as a publisher was to make it easier for people to write their books. We actually, at the end of 2016, had a 3-step writing process that would take 8 hours to write a book. 20 people paid us to do that. Let's fast forward a year, end of 2017. I got to do the TED Talk, and that was just spectacular. Got my mind thinking. You just Google Mitchell Levy TED Talk, you'll get there. Awesome. Got my mind thinking in a completely different way, and then I looked at the results. Of the 20 people who paid us that when they wrote their book, we'd publish it. Chris, do you want to guess how many actually wrote their book? 8 hours to write your book.
0.
So there is a little bit of glass half empty in you, but by the way, I thought it was going to be at 20%. I thought everyone would write. We made it easy, right? And so technically the answer was 2. What happened, I then went to 5 of the people and said, hey, can I charge you the minimum amount possible and ghostwrite it for you? So 3. Okay. Now, let me tell you what bothered me most. That means 17 people couldn't find 8 hours in a 12-month period to do something they paid for that would be beneficial for them.
Oh, my gosh.
So then I went to my friends in the online learning space. I went to my friends in the internet marketing space. Now, here's what they said that just kind of blew me away. They go, Mitchell, do you realize that's a 15% utilization rate? That's really good. And I have to tell you guys, that's not the business. Chris, that's not the business I want to be in, to sell stuff people don't use. So what started happening in 2018, and it's been a glorious year for me, is we've been perfecting the we write for you model. And the real benefit of this is what I can actually say now is I sell time. Right. You know, at the end of your life, you know, you don't want more money. You want time. Right. That's what we want all the time. We want time. So I like books, and I'll show you a couple. I like books where the spine size looks like this. These are about 120 page books.
Right.
So a 120 page book will take you 120 hours to write on average. If you publish yourself, it's another 200 hours.
Oh my God.
Now here's what we do. That's 320 hours. Just put that to the side. I'll do a 2-hour interview. Now, with some people, if you're an oral processor and you're a servant leader, it might be 3 hours, but I do a 2-hour interview. And then I take that interview and we pass it to a bunch of graduates from the Aha That Writing School. They write the manuscript for you. And they're writing 140 bite-sized quotes, 7 blog posts. You then get to review that information. You give us ideas for the cover. You pick pictures. We then put in book layout format. Once again, once you approve that, we publish. And after we do that, we run an Amazon bestseller campaign. So you're going to be an Amazon bestselling author. We'll interview you and create videos of your section images. If you want to read your book, we then will let you read your book, and you'll have your audiobook. And so what you can imagine is, so let's say if we're in January today, fast forward to May, you're an Amazon best-selling author in May with both hardcover, paperback, PDF, Kindle, and a book on the Aha That platform.
Yes, please.
and Chris, we'll talk about that later. So here's the interesting part. I've only taken the 2-hour interview plus 3 to 5 hours review time. You're spending less than 10 hours. So let's assume it's 10 hours. Okay, so 320. How much you'd spend otherwise, minus 10 is 310 hours. So if your hourly rate is $100 an hour, that's $31,000. If it's $200 an hour, that's $62,000 that you could have spent elsewhere. Now imagine in May, you now have 310 hours in your life you didn't have before, and you use your status as an Amazon best-selling author to then sell your services. Can't you make more than anything we charge? And we're significantly less than that, right? So that was what's fun is helping people realize that, like, hey, don't you want more time? And lots of people decide they grew up thinking they could create the great American novel or they write their life story and Oprah's going to find it and make a movie and they'll be, and that's like winning the lottery. Right. And when people come to me and say, Mitchell, I want to do a manuscript. I want to, my life story is so beautiful. People want to hear it. My response is hold up your camera, ask yourself 4 questions, 15 minutes each, give a response, put it on a channel on YouTube or buy Vimeo. That's your book. Wow. A whole lot easier. The only people who are going to watch it are the people who are your family. That's the only people that will buy your book anyhow. What your book is on is simple. To be an expert, to be recognized as a thought leader, as a recognized expert, as a person who has credibility to solve a problem, this is very simple. Your book is on, I call it CPOP. Your book is on the customer point of pain that you solve. Yes. Right? So let me try this on you. So if I hold this book up, and this is the name of the TED Talk as well. So I hold this book up and I'm introducing myself. I have 10 minutes and actually I just went through a branding exercise. So now what I'm calling myself, or what I've been told to call myself, global credibility expert. Wow. So Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, international best-selling author and TEDx speaker of the book, Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. I don't need, so Chris, I don't need to say anything else, because if you're in the room and you want to do a TED Talk, or you're in the room and you want to be seen and be heard, or you want to know this thing called thought leader, i.e. CPOP. If your CPOP is, I need to get my brand out there. Oh, maybe, hey, Mitchell's right here. Maybe I should talk to him. And so anyone who's watching this, who's listening to this, what you have to think to yourself is, what do you do to get paid? And by the way, you want a small definition of expert?
Yes.
Here, simple definition. Somebody's paying you to perform a service.
Okay.
Now, if you get paid 2 or 3 times, then you're kind of really an expert, and nobody ever pays you again because you got a bad reputation. Maybe, but it's a simple explanation. You put a lemonade stand on the corner and, people buy you on day 1. If they don't come back on day 2, that means you're making bad lemonade, right? Yep. So it's a simple definition. And what happens in today's world, because the lemonade salespeople, or because of whatever you do, you now have competitors around the world. Your job is to be recognized as somebody who could solve that problem that your prospects have.
Yeah.
Having a book is a simple way to do it. And then what's interesting, when people say, Mitchell, what should I write my book on? Now, we did publish this book. It's 100,000 words. It's dense copy. The authors took 3 years to write. We did publish that. And we have 3 traditional publishing companies. But the thing is, if you could snap your fingers and write a book, it changes the nature in your mind of what a book is. Because think of it in a different way. Imagine if you think to yourself, in the next quarter or 2, how many Facebook campaigns are you going to run? Right? And basically your definition of a Facebook campaign, it's going to solve this problem or focus on this area to this audience. Right. So if you're going to run 5 or 6 Facebook campaigns, theoretically, you could think about having 5 or 6 slightly different titled books.
Yeah.
Because when your prospect is looking at you, they're not saying, look at Chris, he's really cool, or look at Mitchell, he's really cool. They're saying, what is in it for me? And if the title of your book is the problem that I have, Chris, you gave me a book that specifically addresses something I'm thinking about today. I'm like, Chris, I got to talk to you. You're speaking my language.
Yeah. Dude,
that's what we do.
That's so powerful, man. I love it. I love it because I think there's a traditional perspective of what a book is and what it's for and how to write it. And even, me, I was like, oh, well, it has to have all this information. But if you can solve a pain point, for example, I know a lot of guests who come on the show want to get better at interviewing, right? So if they want to get better at interviewing, I write a short, concise book on how to get better at interviewing with these quotes, with these 7 blog posts that cover the 7 key aspects. Then I can offer that to the guests who come on the show who want to amp up their interviewing abilities, because I have the track record of interviewing 450 guests on the show, leaders, role models, experts. So it's like that would be a huge credibility piece and then I'm sure we can put offers in the book that says, hey, if you want to increase even more, if you want even more training on this, go to this webpage, have a conversation, whatever it might be.
Ding, ding, ding. That's what you do well. Yes. Yeah. So, because one of the services we offer and we're bundling in now is you now have 7 blog posts are really your 7 sections.
Okay.
And so if you have a section, one of the things that we do is I'll spend less than an hour with you on a Zoom call like this and have you give me a 30 to 2 minute description of each section. Now you have 8 videos you can market. Each one of those on a section. At the beginning of the book, we have a CTA, a call to action. Every specific aha message can also point to something else. So you could have a URL and an aha message that points to top of funnel. It could point to a YouTube channel. It could point to and fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so what you want to, here's a great example. A lot of times books get old and you have to do a second edition. Let's say you wanted in your interview book, let's say you wanted to make sure every year you gave the best practices in today's way of interviewing. Well, we have one URL. We'll use a tiny URL. I'm using the branded service of TinyCC.
Okay.
And so I have a URL service called aha.pub, AHA.pub. So if I use aha.pub and we put your URL on, you can then go back in and every year, the book doesn't have to change. Every year you just go in and put in a new video and it points to the new video.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And so the thing that's fascinating. So yeah, what you're now thinking about is, how do I take this asset called a book that has the credibility, this sort of thing? very powerful. It's this particular book. Kimberly Weefling does a lot of consulting in Japan. Mm-hmm. This is our first attempt at doing it where every aha message also has underneath it kanji.
Wow.
Right. And so right now, I shouldn't say this out loud. Right now it's free for us to do that, because for me, I want to do something 2 or 3 times, make sure I've got it productionized. I know what my cost is, and then I know what to charge for it. Right. So the next 2 or 3 books that come in the door, having the language underneath it is free.
Wow.
So just thought I'd say it, right? And
that's incredible.
Let me change topic just slightly, and then sure. I'll put the interview back to you. Thanks for letting me jump. So in the old days is not even more than 5 or 10 years ago. In the old days, the concept of a book was the place in which we would educate, we would transform, we would teach people how to do things.
Right.
The problem is the actual mechanism of updating a paper book and getting it distributed and going through that mechanics, it can't possibly keep up with the transformation that's happening in the world as quickly as it is. So let me offer a different explanation of what a book is. Okay. It is simply the piece that's going to help you be established as an expert at what you do.
Yes.
And so here's what your mindset changes. The measurement of success of the book is not how many books sold. It's how many books you gave away. The measurement of success of a book is how many upsells have you been able to make, right? So if you want to educate somebody, create a $200 course, take the book and give away as many many copies, whether it's you're giving away the Kindle or the PDF or paperback, or if you're in financial services and your ASP is $10,000 to $50,000, give away the hardcover copy of the book.
Yeah.
And that sort of person wouldn't necessarily raise them up. But if your average ticket price, your consumer wants to learn, like speaking, come out with a $200 course. Here's how you do better interviews. Right. Then you upsell that into a $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 mastermind. Yeah. And then you upsell that into a $20K one-on-one. Not only am I going to teach you how to interview, I'm going to get you on these locations. Yeah. And then you partner with somebody who can then get them into those locations. Right. And so the book is still that quintessential piece that the world looks at as, I mean, my business card says international best-selling author. I still have 25% of the people who see my business card say, wow, that is so cool. Tell me about it. Right. And so the book is still very powerful. Yeah. I'm encouraging people, use the book in the best way you can. And we have people want to write, they can go to ahathat.com/author. We have a 3-step writing process. You could still write yourself. But if you want to press the easy button, and then you also get my consulting effort, which we don't charge for that, helping steer you into, because people say, Mitchell, I get paid on these 3, 4, 5 different things. What's first? Then we have to have the conversation to decide what is step 1? What is that first book you do?
That's powerful. And I love how it makes sense to do something that's, like you said, the easy button to begin with, and something that gets people to open the door, so to speak. It's like right now there's so many things on the internet, so many blog articles, just like it's like the same formula done over and over again. So if you want to break through that and, pierce that monotony, it's to come up with something that's different. A 120-page book that solves this core problem. You'll be able to read it like that, and it's done for you, and you're giving them away. That's like different, and it breaks people's pattern of what to expect. If you give someone a big book, what's the likelihood that they're going to read it these days if it's like 200 or 300 pages?
I want to say this, but we'll just say small, not business. And Chris, I'll just say one thing. I'm not convinced your book has to solve the problem.
Okay.
Your book needs to address the problem.
Got it.
Right? So it's what happens is if you've talked about the problem in enough ways and your aha messages are solid enough that somebody says, this person truly understands who I am and where I need help or what I need to do next. You don't actually have to drive the solution. You can if you want to, but that's not a requirement in a book these days.
Right, right. So it's the awareness to have them know, hey, you get what I'm going through. You get the pain I'm experiencing, the problem that I'm trying to solve, and you do that through the wording. So your team, your graduates of the Aha That School in writing, they know what to look for to be able to highlight the pain points, the expertise points in the quotes in the 7 blog posts that has people say like, oh my gosh, you get me.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
And let me just, given that we're doing this for an hour, we're halfway done if we wanted to with our book. And let me just be clear, in a 5-minute conversation, an interactive conversation like this, there are typically 5 or so aha messages. By the way, that being an aha message. In a 5-minute interactive interview style conversation, there are up to 5 aha messages.
Wow.
So what happens, and right now I'm the primary interviewer. At some point in time, I can do 2 a day. At some point in time, I'll get overloaded. I'll have to create a certification program. And I've been keeping my eyes open for who I want to initially certify and do the interviews. But to me, it's the most favorite part of the day.
Yeah.
You know how much fun it is to interview people, right? Because you're pulling out their genius. So what I do is I'm listening and pulling out the genius, and I'm trying to put the hat on of their prospect. And I'm trying to ask the questions that the prospect would ask so you could make me feel comfortable that you could solve my issue. The graduates of the school, what they're looking for is they're looking to express the aha messages in such a way that they're super compelling. Like I'll give you one. So this one is in my book. I didn't actually say this. As a matter of fact, this is what I did for this book is I interviewed these 4 thought leaders for a half hour each, 2 hours worth of content. And so what I want to do, and I'll share this and say it at the same time. If you knew nothing about Mitchell Levy and nothing really about thought leadership, I'm going to read this quote. It's aha number 4. And it says, good thought leaders are at the top of the mountain. Great thought leaders are at the bottom of the mountain, helping others climb up.
Wow.
Right. So an aha message by default is something, by the way, good speakers, good interviewers, you've got these things, right? You already know, you know, when somebody at the end of an interview and you go, man, this guy was great. What were they great at? They had 3 or 4 salient aha messages and they wrap stories around it.
Yeah.
Right. That's what makes a powerful speaker. Yeah. So what happens is, in the past, you could do that. Now, here's really cool. Hey, let me tell you aha number 4 from my international best-selling book. It's the same thing you've already said. Now you just do it, from a book.
That's awesome. Awesome. So Mitchell, I want to go back into your journey. How did you get into this place in the first place? I know we're like deep in this conversation. It's awesome. I think to connect people with the why that you do it, how you stumbled upon this or how it discovered you. How did you get here?
It's how big do you want this response? Do you want it like 2 or 3 minutes, or do you want it 10? Because I could do either, right? So
let's do the 2 to 3 minutes.
All right, got it. Well, because it depends. Some people want to go into detail.
Yeah.
What I would say is, I feel like particularly whenever I go to Europe, I feel like a stupid American. Why? Because I only know one language. I know English, right? And as much as I tried, and I could speak a little bit, I can find a beer or wine and the bathroom in almost any language in Europe. But that said, what I do know, I can speak finance, I can speak marketing, I can speak sales, I could speak operations. I sat on the board of a public company. I could speak board. And I'm often found myself in the past of being the person in the middle that I guess it would go back to your love of trying to figure out how people can talk to each other and communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And what I've often done as part of my career the last time I worked for a company was 1997. I left Sun Microsystems running the e-commerce component of Sun Supply Chain, which was $3.5 billion at the time. Wow. So that's the last time I worked. And what I'm often good at is seeing the mega trends. So obviously 1997, .com days, I became Mr. E-commerce. I did lots of consulting. What was missing from that equation is I didn't use the leverage word. right? It was Mitchell Levy speaking, consulting, sitting on a board. You can't leverage sitting on a board, but sitting on a board, running a conference, whatever it was, it required Mitchell to be there. Mm-hmm. So then I started a publishing company. Publishers are great at leverage, but I missed an important point. I was branding the publishing company, not branding Mitchell Levy, the thought leader, the expert, the brand. And so where I'm at now is the evolution of where society is going. And that is, we're in this massive transformation from the industrial age society to the social age. Yeah. The social age means I care less about IBM and I care about the people inside IBM who are the experts, the thought leaders who solve my problem. Right. It's not IBM solving my problem. It is the people I'm working with directly. Yeah. And so if we all need to be recognized expert, recognized thought leaders, I actually now have a solution that also allows me to leverage what I learned in the publishing side and do other things. So the evolution was see a trend, get in front of it, try a solution. It was good, but I missed stuff. First one, I missed leverage because, there's a wall. There's only so much of you as a human that can go around. Next thing, got the leverage piece part, but skipped on the thought leadership part. So now I've got a platform, something I can leverage, and the thought leadership. And so you could see how I got there.
Yeah, that's powerful. I love it. I love it. And as far as becoming the expert or the influencer in today's day and age, I know you've done a ton of work and research around that. What would you recommend there? What do we need to know as far as the evolution and standing out in today's day and age? What have you discovered?
Well, the first thing you have to do is try to clearly articulate who you serve and what problem you solve for them. Yeah. And it's really hard. So we got a call this morning from somebody who's a realtor, and one of her first questions is, so are you kind of this generalist or do you specialize? And you have to figure out how to answer that. And typically for me, my answer is I've got this amazingly horizontal product. How I specialize is I bring on experts who could solve problems in specific vertical industries. Right. Once you become very well known or very established or have lots of money coming in the door, people want to play with you. Yeah. But if you're just starting out, you got to figure out, stay focused. And probably the most important thing I'd say for any entrepreneur is don't worry about what you're selling. Don't worry about who you're selling. Make that first sale, then make your second and third sale, and then figure out what it is you're really doing. Because lots of times people will play and try to model and contract and do NDAs and all that silly horse stuff. And none of it matters. What really matters at the end of the day is that you can solve a problem for somebody and they want to pay you for it. And once you've done it a couple of times, what you initially set out to solve is going to be probably different than what you're actually solving or what people will really pay for. Right. And then what you want to do is then once you've done it a couple of times, you then start figuring out how do you do it more? How do you do it bigger? Is your plate full? Do you want to increase your prices? What partners do you want to bring in? What bigger service or solution you want to solve? And what I'd say is try to not say that you solve world hunger, because you can't solve world hunger unless you're a multi-billionaire. And even if you are, they can't figure this out. So what you want to do is be as focused as you can and start moving forward. And what happens is when you start delivering good value and good service to a community, they start talking. And so if you define a smaller community, it's easier to become an expert in that community. And then you just keep expanding the size of your community. Yeah.
What would you say is the fastest way to truly tap into who is the perfect customer? Who do you serve best? I'm asserting that action and taking action and going out there and finding out. But as far as someone making a conscious, logical decision and strategic decision, where would they start?
Give me a job title, or give me a. I mean, I could answer it generically, but let's use an example. So
give
me an example.
Let's do a public speaker for high schools.
Got it. So that's an interesting, by the way, very interesting one. So before you even start, you should take a look at who's out there doing it well today. right? And how do they position themselves? How do they brand themselves? So Google search high school speakers, right? Take a look at if there are a couple people that stand out, see what speaker associations are affiliated with. Try to figure out if the speaker associations are real or fake, right? How do they actually get in the door? What do they do? Do they have any sponsors? Because if you're going around speaking to high schools, how many companies are interested in also reaching that same audience that might actually be an interesting sponsorship? So you can do that sort of stuff. And then, in today's world, what do they say? Is their message the same as the one you're giving? It's a slightly different message, right? And there's two different places to think about. One, you want to make sure your message resonates.
Yeah.
So you should, if you haven't done Toastmasters or haven't gotten in front of the local high schools and tried it,
right,
that's a problem. So go out and try it, right? So you've got to make sure that you could speak the language that at least resonates with the audience you're going for. But in essence, you're really selling either the administration or the PTA associations, right? There's many different ways. So parent-teacher associations is sometimes where the budget is to pay speakers to speak to the high school. And so what you have to do is figure out sort of what is the inroad to get to the message you want to share.
Yeah.
And if you're speaking to the parent-teacher association, what do parent-teachers care about? They care about their students being prepared to go to college, right? So what about the talk you're giving helps the student get better prepared to go to college, because that's an interesting place to go, right? So the answer to your question is try to figure out how to leverage yourself in the door. Try to make sure that at least in your local community, when you're not going to get paid a lot of money, where you can drive to locations. Because once you get a model in place, then you could replicate it, make it bigger, and get around. I know people who actually do that, and they go to different high schools around the country or different colleges around the country. And there are people who have made a living doing that. And at the end of the day, I'd say whether or not you're writing a book or doing a speech or whatever you do, where are you ultimately monetizing your effort? And if you're assuming that you're going to speak at high schools and you're going to get paid enough money to live, well, if you live in Boise, Idaho, that might be okay. But if you don't, you have to be realistic about if all you're doing is expecting to make money from speaking, that may not be enough. What else can you do to help monetize your efforts? So if you have absolutely nothing, find online training courses that could help students prepare for college that you can offer as an aside and get an affiliate fee, right? Think about other things you can offer. Maybe there's a mastermind, maybe even not for the student, but for the parents to help the students, right? You just have to think about the fact that your life is, if you're going to have fun doing that, figure out who are the influencers and also where the money is, and how do you actually figure out how to get some of that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. Very, very strategic. Great response, Mitchell. And as far as another direction, as far as being an executive before and hanging out in the executive circles and on the boards and becoming a self-employed person later, and having your own publishing company, starting that, what advantages do you feel like you had over entrepreneurs who kind of just start out and they don't have that executive experience or board experience?
Oh, I actually, for many people, it's a disadvantage.
Wow.
Right? For many people who have had high positions at corporations, let's say they're a VP at some company making a couple $100K a year, and they go, man, I could be an entrepreneur. And they start their own business, or even one of my friends started his own law firm, had 10 people working for him. And one of his comments to me was, Mitchell, nobody told me when I started my own law firm and had 10 people working for me that I was the one that was going to change the light bulbs. Right?
Yep.
And so the person who has been at the VP level making a couple $100K isn't necessarily the person who knows what it means to roll up their sleeves and be the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I would say the entrepreneur, what the person who's been at corporate knows, they know how to target money. They know how to they know the mechanics that's involved in creating the types of plans and and allocating the resources necessary to drive that. But most likely, if they're good, particularly if they've been in sales and marketing, what they know is you can't survive unless you have clients.
Right.
So who are the clients? What are you serving? How are you getting paid?
Wow.
And the entrepreneur, let's separate it into two worlds: the entrepreneur and the wantrepreneur. Okay. The wantrepreneur is the person who works for a company today, works 40 or 50 hours a week, and is going to start their business when they quit their job. That's a wantrepreneur, because if you're not working 80 hours a week, you're starting your business now.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
Right? If you don't have that desire to spend a couple hours a week or 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week, depending on how much you're working, to do your business now, you are not an entrepreneur, and stay with the financial sponsor you have today, your job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what's nice about smaller companies and entrepreneurs is, and I'm going to double back to how we started in the beginning of the conversation, is that you're actually listening. When you go and try to sell a company something, right? And by the way, I'll tie this into what I'm doing today. If I'm actually trying, there's still some people who want to do the traditional books. There's still some people who come to me that actually have already published a book. They don't want an aha book. They could still be my client. Right. So we now do an Amazon bestseller campaign. We could do it with somebody else's published book. Last quarter, I looked at 100 potential prospects or partners to work with. And I now have picked 25, because to me, and by the way, you'll never hear a publisher say this. When my clients come to me, their CPOP is not that they need a book. Right? Publishers don't talk this way. Their CPOP is they want more business. They just think if they have a book, it'll help get them more business. Right. So how do I make myself important or part of the equation? Well, the partners I went with are people who can then drive sales. So I want it to be, it may not be this way, Amazon best-selling book, something we do, plus, and you fill in the blank. I got a speaker coach who guarantees you'll make 150 to 200,000 a year, or she'll book you in that space. Wow. I've got a firm that can book you on a 10-city tour, and they'll fill the room on the 10 cities. I've got and you fill in the blank. I've got 5 PR agencies I want to work. And I'm using this guy. Got a guy who can fill your calendar with prospects based on your LinkedIn account and LinkedIn profile. And the same with, I'm exploring somebody on Facebook, somebody on Instagram. So for me, what I've been thinking about is how can I help my true client, which is really anyone who wants to do more business. They may or may not be a client of our services, the book stuff today. It's
brilliant.
Which is really okay.
Yeah, that's it's a mindset of there's more than enough to go around, and I just get to be the connector. I just get to know, hey, where is the diamond field, right? Like for you, what's the road to the diamond field, right? Like here's how you get there if you want to take the mountains. Here's how you get there if you want to take the river. Here's how you get there if you want to take the desert.
Perfect.
That's good.
Perfect.
That's good. I love it, Mitchell. Well, that's brilliant, man. And I feel that's a mindset that a lot of entrepreneurs today, experts, really get to take on, because it's really a relationship building game, and to stay in like one thing only and close off to other opportunities to refer people to like adjacent markets. For example, you're coaching like coaches, life coaches. If you're coaching business owners, then they probably need a tax person or a CPA. They probably need some kind of lawyer person, like legal person. So it's like having those people in your back pocket is important to be able to give the client or this person who you're serving the best service possible, the most amount of like success and fulfillment and happiness, because you can anticipate their needs and problems before they can.
And if because you have a relationship, they know, like, and trust you, your recommendation carries a lot of weight. And then, on those sort of partnership, there's always there's a whole series of people who just say, hey, I refer you, refer me. There's also a whole series that have referral fees.
Yeah.
So to be able to have a network where you're actually referring people, and this is where it gets funny. You don't want to refer somebody to a service if that service won't be good for them,
right,
regardless of whether or not you get paid or not.
Totally.
That's so what you have to decide when you're in business. If your job is to do the best you possibly can for your clients, for the people you work with, then you refer them to somebody who you don't have a affiliate partnership with, if that's a better person for them, because it's the right thing to do. In the long term, you will get rewarded handsomely for that type of thinking and acting.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Mitchell. I agree. In terms of your TEDx talk, you mentioned a lot of things opened up when you did it. What was different before the TEDx talk and after the TEDx talk?
It was the same me. Mm-hmm. What was interesting, let me compare. A couple years before that, I actually got to do a commencement speech at a university. Yeah. Like probably the most, such a small, there's so many, there's not a lot of universities in the world and not a lot of people who do commencement speeches. Right. Such a cool, amazing thing to do. The TEDx talk has more value.
Yeah.
Why? Because the brand, people don't know what to do. My LinkedIn profile said, commencement speech. Like it's either so far out of reach, or I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to put value in place. What was interesting when I thought about the TED talk and I thought about what I'd say, I wanted to give something that I didn't realize what a legacy it is that I'd leave. I wanted to give something that says, listen, we're at a certain point in time. We're actually 50% between the industrial age and the social age. And between 1920 and 2019, we've only made it 50% to where the social age is actually going to be.
Wow.
Now, it's not going to take another 100 years. I think it'll be 2 decades. So if you think the transformation over the last 2 decades have been strong, you wait, the next 2 decades is going to rock your world. So I wanted to give people a flavor for, well, what do you need to do to be successful? And the short answer is you do business with those who you know, like, and trust. So you have more people talking about the love and other things. And so what happens is not anyone would necessarily listen to my commencement speech before they talk to me. Lots of people now are watching the TED talk before they talk to me. So they're actually quoting from my talk because TED has a acceptance level and people are looking at that. And that you've seen typically what it means to do a TED or TEDx, if you do it right, is you're spending the time and energy to perform, to present the best of you on a particular topic at a point in time. This is, so you look at any TEDx, TED talk, it's the best of that person. And even if it's not a topic you're interested in, it's like 10 or 18 minutes. Like, I can listen to that. And it's always so cool. And so for me, the title still has appeal, right? When people hear the title and also when people watch it ahead of time, it elevates the status of people when they talk to me in terms of what they perceive I am before they actually talk. And I hadn't realized the extent of the power that it would have. And by the way, I have 2 other TEDx talks I want to do now. And I hadn't realized how powerful and how cool and what type of effect I could have on other people.
That's incredible. I love it, Mitchell. Is there any other keys that you feel like our audience of entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, coaches, people who are building their own online businesses, they need to hear from this interview that you think is really, really important for them?
That's a super amazing open-ended question. So
right? I give it to you on a silver platter, Mitchell.
You did. Well, I mean, at the end, I'll tell you how to reach out to me.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
The thing that's most important and whether it's an entrepreneur or whether you're in business, is you need a brand, right? If you want to hide and be behind the scenes, that's perfectly okay. But go and find a company and hope that they last longer than you'd expect them to, right? You need a brand, right? And there are many different ways to create a brand. For me, I think books are the absolute best way to do it. And you want to share content. Now, if it's not your way to share content all the time. If you don't want to write, that's fine. Get on Facebook Live or get on YouTube or just record 2-minute videos.
Yeah.
Right. Of just pick a topic and do it. One of the things we do with our books, it's 140 bite-sized quotes. I got on Facebook Live and just I read a quote and talked about it. Yeah. So if there's things, and I think probably the best way to think about it is the stuff you talk about, the stuff you communicate on should be on the stuff that you want to share that will attract other people to you. Right. And so no matter how you go about doing it, video is hot these days. Being able to, many people are creating their own TV channels. So they're going to Roku and Amazon Prime and doing those things too. It's relatively easy to do these days. Yeah. And either do it yourself and the other thing, find people who you like working with. And don't worry about all the contracts and all that stuff. For me, I've always gone through life of finding somebody I like, shake their hands, grab our first client, because sometimes during the client expedition, shit's going to hit the fan. When it does, how does the person you work with deal with the people you're interacting with? And if it's good, then you sign the contract and you do something ongoing. If it's bad, you shake hands and say, hey, thanks. That was a good experiment. We got paid, but that's it. And it's really about finding people you want to play with, collaborating, having fun, solving issues. There's no better world for an entrepreneur to live in than we live in right now.
Yeah. Amazing, Mitchell. I think it's a perfect time to be alive. So much opportunity, and people want to know how they can take advantage of the opportunities that you are providing with, helping them with their book, with all the other wisdom that you can provide them to become an expert, an influencer, to build their business, all the things that you do. So why don't you share with them how they can stay connected with you and what their next steps are, man?
Absolutely. So the easiest, I'm just going to give you my name. It's my name and 360.com. So Mitchell, Mitchell, Levy, Levy, 360.com. Okay. And what you'll see when you go there, it has all my social media sites. So it has the site that you want to interact with me. So you want to talk to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, Snap, feel free to connect there. Mm-hmm. If you want to share content on social media, so that's how to reach me. Okay. You want to share content on social media, ahathat.com, ahathat.com has 47,000 pieces of content you could share today. It's free to use, free to share.
That's awesome.
If you want to write your book, ahathat.com/author, that's where you could see about the writing process or connect to us if you want us to write for you. And I'll just leave one more site. And that is if you're an auditory person and want to listen to AHA messages, what we've done is we've allowed our authors to read their AHA books, and we put them on ahathatradio.com.
Wow.
So if you want to listen to AHA messages 24 hours a day, go to ahathatradio.com.
That's incredible. Awesome. Mitchell, dude, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for the man that you are, the leader that you are, the creator that you are. It's absolutely impressive what you're doing and revolutionizing your piece of the industry, so to speak. I'm excited to see what comes from you this year and what we can do together. You're doing brilliant things, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. And yes, let's continue the conversation and do something fun together.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for being on. We'll see you soon, okay?
My pleasure. Take care. Bye, everybody.